I, 34M, found out about 6 months ago that my wife, 32F, let's call her Clara, had been cheating on me with my best friend. But the betrayal didn't stop at the affair. It bled into every part of my life, infecting things I once thought were sacred. My marriage, my friendships, and even my role as a father. I don't know how to even begin this. I guess I'm writing this because I'm angry, I'm heartbroken, I'm confused. I'm also just done being quiet. I, 34M, found out about 6 months ago that my wife, 32F, let's call her Clara, had been cheating on me with my best friend. But the betrayal didn't stop at the affair. It bled into every part of my life, infecting things I once thought were sacred. My marriage, my friendships, and even my role as a father. Clara and I met in college. She was a lit major who loved poetry, wore messy buns, and had this way of quoting Sylvia Plath like she meant every word. I was the nerdy finance kid with no social game, and somehow she still picked me. We were together for 10 years, married for 7. We built a life, a home, and most importantly had twins Leo and Mia, now 6. I thought we were solid. Sure, we had rough patches, who doesn't? Raising twins isn't easy. Finances were tight after COVID. We had less time for each other. But I believed in us. I believed in her. Until everything cracked. Started small. She began dressing differently. New perfume. Staying late at work. Smiling at her phone. A smile that used to be mine. I asked her about it and got the usual "you're being paranoid," followed by a guilt trip about how I didn't trust her. I dropped it. I trusted her. Then came the real slap in the face. My son Leo. One evening, while we were building Lego castles, he just casually said, "Daddy, why does Mommy kiss Uncle Jared when you're not home?" I froze. You know those moments where the air just disappears from the room? That was it. Jared, my best friend since I was 11. He'd been in our wedding. He was my kid's godfather. He was at my house every other weekend, drinking my beer, playing with my kids, and sleeping with my wife behind my back. I didn't lose it right away. I didn't confront her then and there. I waited a few days, observed, documented. I went through her phone while she was in the shower, something I never thought I'd do in my life, and there it was. Hundreds of messages, photos, voice notes, all of it. Not just sex. Love letters. "We were always meant to be," she wrote to him. "He doesn't see me the way you do." It felt like someone had replaced my lungs with ice. I confronted her that night. I expected tears, guilt, regret. Instead, I got indifference. She looked at me, calm as still water, and said, "I've been unhappy for a long time. You focus more on the kids than on me. I need someone who sees me." I asked her, "So you chose him?" "My best friend." And she just said, "He makes me feel alive." I packed a bag and left. I spent the night in my car, parked in front of a 24/7 gym. I didn't even go inside. I just sat there until sunrise, staring at the dashboard, trying to piece together how my life had unraveled so fast. But the worst part? It wasn't even the affair. It was what came next. She filed for full custody. She went to court and painted me as a negligent, emotionally unstable father. She brought up the fact that I once took anxiety meds after my dad died, as if that made me some kind of liability. She said I was rigid, controlling, and unfit. She had the audacity to use the love I had for my children against me. She twisted it into obsession. Micromanaging. She said I smothered them with rules and structure while she nurtured their free spirit. She brought in Jared as a character witness, my Judas in a suit. Meanwhile, I had to fight to be heard, to prove I wasn't what she said I was, that I read to them every night, that I was the one who stayed up when they had fevers, that I was the one who packed their lunches with stupid little notes every day, notes Clara used to laugh at. I hired a lawyer, the best I could afford, and I started building my case. I documented every single missed pickup Clara made, every lie, every weekend she ditched the kids to work, but was actually partying with Jared in the city. I didn't just want shared custody anymore. I wanted justice, and I wanted my kids to be safe. even if it meant dragging their mother through the legal hell she built for me. Now I'm waiting for the next hearing. Every day feels like I'm walking through fire. I cry in the shower. I smile in front of my kids. I hold myself together with duct tape and coffee. But I won't break, because my children didn't ask for this war. But if I have to burn through every lie and every fake friend to keep them safe, then so be it. The next battle begins next week. And I'll be damned if I let her win by stabbing me and smiling through it. I didn't deserve this. My kids don't deserve this. And the truth is finally coming out. It's been 3 months since I wrote that first post, and I don't even know where to begin. Every day has felt like walking barefoot across broken glass. This custody battle has consumed me. It's eaten away at my sleep, my appetite, my belief in justice, but not my will. That's the one thing I've held on to, even as everything else slipped through my fingers. The first hearing was a performance. That's the only way to describe it. Clara showed up with her hair perfectly styled, her makeup done just right, like a grieving widow trying to earn sympathy. Jared was there too, sitting right behind her like a smug, well-dressed shadow. I felt like I was living in someone else's bad dream, watching the people I once loved become strangers playing roles in a play I didn't audition for. Her lawyer was a shark, cold, calculated. He had this way of making everything I've ever done sound sinister. I used to keep bedtime logs and school calendars. Suddenly that was obsessive control. I once asked Clara to text me when she got the kids home. Apparently that's possessiveness. And when they brought up my anxiety medication from 4 years ago, they didn't just mention it, they weaponized it. They tried to paint me as unstable, unwell, and incapable of providing a nurturing environment for my kids. Never mind that I voluntarily went to therapy, that I got help, that I took care of myself for my children. Clara sat there dabbing her eyes with tissues like she was auditioning for a Hallmark movie. The same woman who used to laugh when Leo cried because he broke his Lego set. Now she was trying to paint herself as some Earth mother who nurtured their every need. I had to sit and listen while the woman who abandoned our family spun a story where I was the villain. But it didn't end there. Her side submitted fabricated screenshots, texts allegedly from me where I was angry, threatening, and unhinged. Only I never sent those texts. My lawyer immediately flagged inconsistencies. The fonts were mismatched. The timestamps were off. The language wasn't even mine. I don't use phrases like, "You'll regret this." I'm not a villain in a cheap drama. I'm a dad trying to save his kids. It was a disaster. But even in that courtroom full of lies, one small flicker of truth broke through. Leo's school counselor. She testified on my behalf. Said she'd seen noticeable behavioral changes in both kids, especially Leo. He'd become more withdrawn, more nervous, and more unsure of what he could say. She mentioned he once said, in her office, "I like being with Daddy. He listens to me. Mommy says Daddy is bad, but I don't believe her." Hearing that broke me. I sat there with tears streaming down my face in front of strangers, but I didn't care. That sentence, that tiny little truth, shattered all the lies like glass. We weren't done yet, though. My lawyer revealed we had surveillance, perfectly legal, professionally obtained surveillance of Jared and Clara. On 3 separate occasions, they left the kids home alone to go to bars. They were seen drinking and stumbling out of clubs while the twins were with her younger sister, who was 19 and had been seen sneaking out during her babysitting shifts. Photos, videos, receipts, everything they had thrown at me, every half-truth, every character assassination, we were able to start dismantling. The judge, a woman in her early 50s with eyes like ice and a noble shit demeanor, requested an emergency in-chambers review of the custody status. When we reconvened, Clara's side looked nervous. She clutched her purse like it could protect her from the truth unraveling in that room. And then the ruling. Not final custody yet, but temporary custody was revised. I was granted temporary primary custody, pending further psychological evaluations and Clara's mandatory participation in parenting classes and counseling. Visitation rights were adjusted. She could only see the kids in supervised settings until further notice. I wish I could describe the feeling of bringing my children back home that night. The relief in Mia's tiny sigh when she saw her bedroom again. The way Leo clung to me like he was afraid I might disappear. That night, we made pancakes for dinner. I let them pick the toppings. We ate them on the living room floor while watching Finding Nemo. I held them both until they fell asleep. And I cried again. Not from sadness. Not even from relief. But from exhaustion. From grief over a family that should have been real, but was just a performance. From the realization that the person I loved, who I had children with, would lie and burn everything to the ground to protect herself and him. But this isn't over. We have a full custody hearing in 6 weeks. And this time, I'm walking in with proof, with resolve, and with the full force of truth. They tried to paint me as a villain, but they forgot one thing: villains don't fight like this for love. Fathers do. It's been nearly 6 weeks since that last courtroom battle, 6 weeks of temporary custody, supervised visitations, lawyer meetings, counseling reports, and watching my kids slowly piece themselves back together. And 6 weeks of Clara falling apart in ways I never thought I'd witness. The court-mandated counselor called me 2 weeks ago. She wanted to warn me, off the record, that Clara was not progressing well in her parenting classes. That she appeared agitated, disconnected, and emotionally reactive during evaluations. I didn't know how to feel. I should have felt vindicated, maybe even triumphant. But instead, I felt sad. Not for her, not anymore, but for what my children would have to untangle someday. The wreckage of a mother who couldn't put them first. Meanwhile, Leo has stopped wetting the bed. Mia has started drawing again. I found a crayon drawing in her backpack last week. It was of our little apartment, with me, her, and Leo all holding hands. She even drew a little pancake on the table. No Clara. No Jared. They were healing. Slowly. But it was happening. But, of course, peace never lasts long in these kinds of wars. Clara, either out of desperation or complete delusion, filed a countermotion last week. She accused me of alienation, said I was turning the kids against her, feeding them lies, manipulating their perception of her. She claimed Leo had started refusing to speak to her during supervised visits because of parental poisoning. She even submitted a journal entry from Mia's school bag as evidence, saying it proved I was planting thoughts in her head. Except, that entry, Mia didn't write it. I did. It was an old page from a parenting journal I used to keep. Something I wrote when Clara was first becoming distant and cold, back when I still hoped we could save our marriage. I must have accidentally left the journal in a box Mia now uses for coloring. And Clara must have found it during one of the supervised handoffs and decided to weaponize it without verifying the handwriting or date. The judge didn't just dismiss the motion. She reprimanded Clara's attorney for submitting unverifiable evidence without consulting a handwriting analyst. It backfired hard. But that wasn't even the worst part. During her last supervised visitation, Clara snapped. The report said she arrived late, again, and immediately began asking the kids about Daddy's new girlfriend. Spoiler, I don't have one. I can barely function emotionally, let alone start dating. When Leo ignored her, she started crying, then yelling, then apparently accused the visitation supervisor of sabotaging her time. Leo ran into the bathroom. Mia froze and wouldn't speak. It was enough for the visitation center to recommend suspension of her parental time until she undergoes a psychological assessment. The look on Clara's face when the judge read the visitation suspension aloud, it wasn't sadness. It wasn't shame. It was rage. Cold, spiteful rage. Not at herself. At me. As if I had caused her to lose control of her own mind. And Jared? He was there again. Sitting silently, looking less confident than before. As if even he was starting to see the cracks widening. I found out later that he recently lost his job. Something about unprofessional conduct. I didn't dig too deep, but it made sense. The universe has a funny way of aligning justice when you least expect it. But here's the most dramatic twist. The one that makes this whole thing feel like it belongs in a Netflix courtroom thriller. Clara's mother. A woman who once screamed at me for not earning enough money, who called me a boring loser with a calculator, reached out to me last night. She apologized. She said she didn't believe me at first, that Clara told them all I was emotionally abusive and unfaithful. But after watching how things unfolded, and after Clara screamed at her in public during a family brunch, calling her a traitor, she started to realize something was deeply wrong. She asked if she could see the kids. I haven't answered her yet, because I don't know if I can trust anyone from Clara's orbit ever again. This fight is far from over. The final custody decision is in 3 weeks. But I feel something shifting. Not in the court. Not even in Clara. In me. For the first time in over a year, I feel steady. Not strong. Not whole. But grounded. Rooted in truth. Fueled by the fire of love that hasn't wavered, no matter how many lies have been thrown at it. They thought they could break me, but what they didn't understand is that when you try to destroy a father's love, all you do is sharpen it. 3 weeks. Final round. I'll be ready. It's done. Today, in that courtroom where I once stood broken, I stood taller than I've ever felt in my life. Not because I won, but because I survived. The final custody hearing started at 9 a.m. The air in the courtroom was thick, heavy with tension and unsaid things. Clara arrived late again, disheveled this time, with none of her usual polished charm. Her makeup was smeared, her hair thrown back in haste, and her eyes, they looked vacant, like someone who finally realized the house of lies she built was burning from the inside. Jared didn't come. Not this time. My lawyer leaned over and whispered. Her new attorney filed a motion to withdraw last night. She's representing herself today. I blinked. Representing herself? Clara, who once held the world by the throat with her manipulation, was now stumbling into legal quicksand with no one to throw her a rope. The judge, firm, unwavering, opened the session and requested final statements. Clara's was a disaster. She rambled about me turning the kids into weapons, about how unfair the system was, about how I strategically made her look unstable. She even claimed I faked the therapy letters, the visitation reports, and that everyone was on my side because I'm boring but believable. At one point she shouted, "This is a setup. He manipulated the court like he manipulated me." The judge banged the gavel and told her firmly, "This is not a movie. This is your children's lives. Compose yourself." And then it was my turn. I didn't speak long. I simply said, "I didn't want this. I never wanted to rip my children from their mother. I wanted to co-parent, to heal, to move on. But she left me no choice. I've been fighting for stability, for safety, for peace. I'm not perfect, but I never once gave up on my children, even when their mother gave up on us. That was it." The judge called for a short recess, then returned with her ruling. Sole physical and legal custody granted to me. Clara's visitation, indefinitely suspended with an option to reapply for supervised visits only after 18 months of consistent therapy, sobriety verification, and psychiatric assessment. I sat there frozen as the words echoed in my head. The kids were mine. Safe. Protected. No more weekend handoffs. No more watching Leo cry in the back seat. No more wondering what they were hearing from people who didn't love them the way they deserved. It was over. When we walked out of the courtroom, Clara didn't even look at me. She just stared at the floor, then turned and walked the other way. For the first time in this entire ordeal, I didn't feel anger toward her. I felt pity. She destroyed her own reflection, tore down her own world. And for what? A man who left her. A lie that unraveled. An image that couldn't withstand reality. A few hours later, I picked up Leo and Mia from school and told them we'd be going on a short trip, just the 3 of us. Somewhere quiet, somewhere warm. They cheered. Leo hugged me so tightly I thought I might break. Mia whispered, "Can we watch Finding Nemo again tonight?" "Yes, baby girl. We can watch it every night if you want." At dinner that night, Leo asked if I was happy. I told him I was. He looked thoughtful, then said, "You didn't give up on us." I had to excuse myself. I didn't want them to see me cry. Here's the truth. I didn't just win a case. I reclaimed my life. The family I thought I lost? It was never real. It was an illusion Clara wore like a dress. Pretty from far away, but hollow when you touched it. But the family I have now, it's messy, tired, healing, and real. I know the internet loves a neat ending, a villain punished, a hero rewarded. But real life isn't like that. Clara will probably always be angry. Jared will probably move on and do this to someone else. And I'll carry the scars of this chapter forever. But my kids, they'll grow up knowing someone fought for them. That love doesn't lie, doesn't quit, doesn't turn cold when things get hard. They'll grow up knowing the truth. And that is enough. Thank you for stepping into another tale with me. Every story unlocks a different world, and I'm glad you were here for the journey. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my stories Unchained, where every ending is just the beginning of another adventure. Until next time, keep your mind open and your heart ready for the next story, Unchained.